Hi everyone, I'm Airier, and today we're going to be checking out What the Internet Did to Garfield by Super Eyepatch Wolf. Despite my better sense, which apparently I do have, we're still doing this. Giant pile of regret that I have decided to willingly engage in. I would say I'm questioning my sanity, but I think at this point that question has already been answered. Yeah, so we're going to jump right in. You guys know the deal. There's a link below to the original video. Hit it up. All my bitching aside, Super Eyepatch Wolf is doing an amazing job of this, and I kind of want to see what he's done other than this, with the exception that I also know for a fact it is going to be insane and probably sanity destroying, because people have shown me bits of what else he's done, and it's, I think the term is, really fucked up. So let's just jump right in before I think better of it. Again, link below, original video, hit it up. If you like this, subscribe, and let's get started.
On the 13th of February 2008, a Garfield fan comic was uploaded to Tumblr, and it looked just like a regular Garfield comic, but with one critical
Are there no
difference.
second and third
The first
panel?
panel depicted John sitting alone with the dialogue, "I've done things in my life that I regret." The second panel
getting a cat?
shows nothing, just John, his remorseful silence unbroken. The final panel of the comic punctuated by nothing. Just a slight shift in John's expression, like his regrets are washing over him. What this was just a regular Garfield strip with one key difference.
They took out Garfield, including when he said it.
Garfield had been removed. Because of the very specific way John and Garfield communicate, the comic still works. But whereas before Garfield's punchlines could distract us from John's misery, that's no longer the case.
And I just realized, and I don't think I'd ever even noticed this before, you can see how he's reacting to Garfield just with the facial expressions, but when you take out the context, it makes it look like he's just brooding and maybe even breaking the fourth wall by shifting his gaze slightly more to us. Huh. That's actually really cool. Also, is it? Oh, that's REN 1080. Ugh, I hate using auto.
And this was the beginning of the bizarre and morbid webcomic Garfield minus Garfield, which lets us experience the true crushing reality of John.
Okay, this one isn't actually John being anything. This is just a good way to deal with most time after 2020. So this one's just perfectly normal.
And some of these comics are really haunting. There's one in particular that is either very hopeful or very devastating, depending on your perspective, where John says, "We can't do anything about the past, but we can do something about the future," before he just disappears. Garfield minus Garfield was not the first instance of people removing Garfield from the comic to produce this kind of effect, but it...
Okay, completely honest, that really does change the tone. Before, at the end of the last video, he was like, yeah, taking out John, like just putting John in alone, that would do something. But, you know, you still saw Garfield, you got the subtle interaction just with how the character changes motions and looks at you differently, and it still worked. Taking him out completely so you don't even have that much interaction with him, that's... Normally when you take something out of context like this, it breaks. It looks awkward, and there's no punchline because it just feels like someone fucked up. If someone told me this was just a joke about an idiot who we all kind of just want to laugh at, so basically everybody loves Raymond but funny, then I would believe this.
It was what popularized the idea online that there may be something very wrong with John Arbuckle.
I mean, at this point,
time,
you get someone to go check to see if Davis is okay.
Ways. Realistic Garfield, for example, conveyed similar themes by just replacing Garfield with a realistic
more
cat
disturbing.
who could not talk, as did fan comics like Arbuckle, while animations like Meat Canyon's Lasagna brought the idea of John's fractured reality even further.
I know just enough about Meat Canyon to know that there's going to be a few people in the comments going, hey, so what are you going to react to that? I'm just sitting here going...
depicting John as a frightening, delusional lunatic who holds his terrified victims captive and forces them to play the part of Garfield and Odie as he warps back and forth between the John Arbuckle we know from the comics and something much, much darker.
Okay, just gonna throw it out there. Kind of looks like a cartoon version of Bob Saget.
The reason all these pieces are important is that
there's all of them?
Not only that there is something kinda wrong with John Arbuckle, but also that that is something that even in the early days of Garfield's online fandom, people picked up on.
And it's relatable.
But things get even stranger.
Come on, everyone's had that day.
When we look at this through the lens of what John Arbuckle,
I mean, not to that same extent, but
meant to be. Remember earlier when I said that Norm Nat ended in 1975, Jim Davis then spent 3 years doing nothing, and Garfield started...
I'm gonna just throw it out there. The entire idea of John is basically, this is what your worst day looks like, but someone else suffering through it instead of you. It's kind of like Schadenfreude.
That's
just my guess, though.
Well, that was a lie. But I framed it this way because for decades, that's what people thought was the truth. Listen to any interview in which Jim Davis speaks about the origins of Garfield, and he'll wheel out the same anecdote about the failure of Norm Nat because insects are not appealing characters.
Yeah,
and how that realization led to him looking at dog-centric comics like Peanuts and Marmaduke and saying to himself, what if I can create a similar character, but for people who like cats? And
I just realized Snoopy in many ways is basically a slightly more creative Garfield. And Charlie Brown is probably just as depressed as John. Granted, more people fuck around with Charlie than John. John just does it to himself a lot of the time.
And thus, Garfield was born. Except this version of events also ignores the existence of Heathcliff, another surly, round, orange cat who predates Garfield by about 5 years, and this isn't relevant at all, but I just think it's funny. However, this telling is a lie, or at least not the full truth.
Or more likely, it's because he's practiced his public media reasoning, because, frankly, it gets annoying after a while to say the same thing over and over again. And I'm saying that just because just at the low level of having to talk to people in a writing class about how you came up with something, you quickly realize they want a story that's interesting, not, I hit words, I liked how it looked, and I kept doing it intentionally a few times. Yeah, that's, honestly, author bullshitting because author can bullshit and no one's going to call them on it is actually a reason. That said, when you know people are listening, it's actually fun to bullshit. Because sometimes they'll put a lot of effort and thought into dissecting what you know is absolute and utter trash. And it's actually fun as hell. Am I a good person? No. No, I am not.
Because you see, in the period between 1975 and 1978,
rewriting?
There was a third comic.
Oh.
One that was only discovered in 2019 by intrepid Garfield historian.
Wait, only that recently?
Reviews. And this comic was simply titled John. There are two very strange things about John.
Okay, one, that is disturbing, and two, I think I have seen this exact bit with Garfield with the feed me. But this doesn't look like a cat. This looks like someone is subjecting a chipmunk to some kind of cancerous growth in it's mouth. What the I don't just
The first being how closely it resembles Garfield.
I'm pretty sure he used this exact bit later.
Jokes to entire layouts are repeated across the two series.
Oh, no, I'm not the only one thinking about that. He literally just made a funnier look for the character. And made it look more like jowls as opposed to tumors. Huh.
The only difference being that the main character here is John. Davis has spoken a lot about how John Arbuckle is an...
Wow. He didn't change at all. Like, wow. What's your dog's name? Spot. I had to ask. This is going to sound weird, but that specific jawline, I think that's Santa's little helper from The Simpsons. No, seriously, I'm not even joking. Like, that specific lack of a lower jaw, the kind of derp look. I'm actually going to pull that up right now. Okay, so maybe it's just me. The jawline doesn't quite match up, but you see where I'm going on that. It's the entire lack of a lower jaw and just that wave? Yeah, let's go with wavy intro to the mouth and just the derp eyes. Maybe they're just trying to draw the same type of dog, but it looks really similar, man.
Analog for him. Both grew up on a farm, both live in Muncie, Indiana.
That's a real place?
And both are cartoonists. In fact, Davis originally wanted to use the character of John as a way to voice his frustration with the comic strip industry.
And suddenly it makes a lot more sense.
Davis was in his life when he first started writing this character, that tracks. John started just 2 weeks after the failure of Norm Nat, and you can
feel he actually got that
frustration in these early comics. In one instance, John even turning to the camera and saying how he thinks the content of this comic will land him in trouble with parents groups.
Dr. Gustav Stitch, we'll see you now. That is one hell of a name. Dr. Stitch is der name und fixin' sickies is der game. Where does it hurt? I'll kiss it and make it vil, haha. I foresee the AMA boycotting this strip. Okay, I'm going to be completely honest. I can see why this wouldn't do nearly as well as Garfield, because the cat breaking the fourth wall when it's already kind of ridiculous because it's a cat saying it makes a lot more sense because you're already suspending a lot of disbelief there. Here, though, it's just a little too on the nose because you're not suspending as much disbelief yet. And then you get to this guy, and honestly, just going to point it out there. I don't think the AMA is the one who would have a problem with this. I think this would be more the Boy Scouts being a little upset that someone stole their shtick. And if you understand that, yeah, you probably also wish I hadn't brought it up as well. I apologize.
And while Garfield still featured heavily, there were strips where he just didn't appear at all, with scenarios more focused on observational humor derived from the perspective of a single man. But it wasn't long into the run when that started to change, with jokes more and more centering around Garfield and not John. The final strip of John being published on August 8th, 1977, the strip returning a week later.
Wait. Oh my god, you can actually see as it progresses into Garfield. His face gets longer as it goes. Here and centerfold. Elk? Farah? It's an elk. It's an actual elk. Oh, Kareem Abdul-Jabbar. He's so tall. Oh my god, got that. And then it's going to this, and this is literally the last one of John, but it becomes Garfield because it's the exact same character design at that point, except Garfield looks a lot less fucked up. But John is literally the same. It's not even a change in animation style.
August 8th, 1977. The strip returning a week later, but now named Garfield. And within a year, Garfield would be syndicated.
Wait, was this actually the first one? They just renamed it and then started Garfield separately? Oh boy, today is Thursday. And that's lasagna day. Cat food. Splat. They don't add the sound effect yet, but it's there. And you can see how this is becoming Garfield. The stripes aren't there yet. The coloration isn't there yet. Of course, because black and white wouldn't matter. But it's getting closer. Although this one still looks like it has significant issues and maybe should get that mold checked out, even though they're supposed to be whiskers. They're not in the right place.
On a national level, becoming the newer version of the comic we are all now familiar.
And this one, it looks old.
The second thing I find
and weird.
So strange about John is that while Jim Davis is often happy to laugh about the failure of Norm Nat, he barely ever speaks about John, and when he does, he only talks about it in the vaguest of terms, as if it was an idea in his sketchbook as opposed to an actual published comic.
I mean, completely honest, did he know it was getting published at first, or did someone just pick it up as like, fuck it, we need something to fill space? I mean, on the one hand, that's stupid. There's no way that would happen. On the other hand, just throwing it out there, just dumber things have happened.
And I can't help but wonder if there's something to that. If the idea of a comic that was meant to be his own perspective, his own outlet on life, was a failure, overtaken by a fictional character he created. Even stranger,
I'm sure the money
Garfield
helped.
went on, the similarities between Jim Davis and John Arbuckle began to disappear. John's job as a cartoonist practically vanishing as he devolves into the pathetic shell of a man we now know. And I'm not saying here that I think Jim Davis has some deep-rooted trauma that is manifesting in his daily newspaper comic.
I mean, I will. That's basically what most humor's from.
I genuinely do not think that. But I do think that this perspective adds a lot to this strange meta-narrative.
It's the massive overbite
of
that makes it look weird, isn't it?
Overtaken by his own creation, abandoning the character he once embodied, and that character now being trapped in a life of existential suffering. And here's the thing. If I was the only person who saw this, then there wouldn't be a story.
No, it's pretty obvious.
But I'm not. Let's go back to those last 5 minutes of Lasagna Cat.
What? Oh, no.
Lasagna Cat ended 2 years before the discovery of John. But even then, what John adds to Lasagna Cat is kind of chilling.
And he goes bald as
scene when that second John ages, he begins to bear a striking resemblance to Jim Davis, the person we now know John was originally meant to be. This new strange combination of Jim Davis and John Arbuckle, lost and clinging to the husk of a cat he should have let go of a long time ago. Before he comes face to face with a version of Garfield that's become independent from him and is now strange and frightening.
It's
before
weird
Davis
to look at it.
Crumbles to earth, outlived by the very thing he created.
See, that's actually one of the things I think is the weirdest. Just because usually this is a very disturbing take on your creation outliving you and moving beyond you. But it's weird since that is literally what most people want to do. They want to make something that will grow beyond them, that they have made their mark. They've done something that will propagate beyond their control because then that's a way to say, I did this. It's why sometimes crazy things are still prevalent today. Why music that's rather old is still known because it has outlived its creator. And in a very real way, this is taking something that most people actively look for, that type of immortality, that is literally something the Aeneid, I can never say the name right, one of the Troy books. Technically it's not a trilogy, but there's like 3 books, including the Odyssey, the Aeneid, and you know what? I'm actually going to completely admit here, I forgot what the first one was, unless it was the Aeneid. Whatever. Those books were all talking about immortality. They took various takes on being outlived. And like, that's a historic perspective from couple thousand? I don't actually know what happened. I think about at least over 1,000, probably 2,000-ish years ago. Rome would have been around already, so it was over 2,000 years ago, yeah, if not more. So it's that type of immortality of notoriety, and this is saying, yeah, I have that, and I hate it. Yeah, honestly, I would not have got that without him pulling that up. Makes a little more sense, but also it's just weird because that's usually not how people go.
Which is immediately followed by the bathroom scene. And what's interesting here is that if we translate the girl's monologue from Polish, it reads, "This child isn't mine. This child is from the darkness. I've given birth to humanity's curse. My soul will be swallowed and vomited and swallowed again."
Oh. Well, that's how Fortnite was created.
Forever. Sick joke. But no one is laughing. My blood will remain. Death isn't the end. I am in hell. This is hell. And while I can't show it on screen, in that final shot, the baby is shown wearing a blue shirt identical to John Arbuckle's. For pieces of art like this, I think there is a lot of different interpretations that you can make. But for me personally, when Lasagna Cat is taken in totality, it becomes this bizarre statement on what happens when the things you create become more powerful than you. how Garfield has become this semi-immortal entity, evolving past both John Arbuckle and Jim Davis. And I mean this literally. Garfield is no longer even created by just Jim Davis. He has an entire team of people working under him who have become so adept at creating Garfield, their work is now indistinguishable from his. And
I mean, if you do anything long enough, that is how a lot of old masters created their paintings. And I'm not talking about like, oh yeah, someone impersonated. Like, no. Workshops are a thing. What he's talking about right now, I know it's supposed to be like, this is so much beyond him. No, this is actually historically how most art was made. Factory style. They would have the artist themselves, who has the name on the piece that everyone is essentially hiring, make the big, fun to draw details that they actually want to draw to it. And the background characters, the tiny little drawings, or just the random bullshit to fill out a scene were handled by everyone else, or the shading or other aspects. It was basically art in a factory setting, and it was kind of exactly what they're talking about here. It's just, sorry, I know just enough to know that what they're talking about, what they're showing, and the revelation is old. It's old techniques and old stylings of how things used to be hundreds to thousands of years. And that entire time span, various people have used it. That's not unusual. I'm talking about the pre-Raphaelite and the Raphaelite artists specifically, because most of my art knowledge is based on specifically Italian art, so I just got fascinated with it for a bit. I just happen to know a bit about that. But Raphael himself was one of those people, and he was weird because he gave up on copying other people and just did his own shit. Granted, he was also really good at copying people, so he made a lot of money on that. But yeah, that's just... it's weird because in context, it sounds both creepier that it's outliving him, but also from an even further historical standpoint, it just... how to put this? It's describing what most people would strive to through most of humanity, and then showing it as a bad thing, or as being interpreted that way, which I guess is more the important part, because this is how other people in this community are interpreting, which is probably what he's getting at. And by him, I mean Sniper. I was going to say Sniper Wolf. That's a very different person. Super Eyepatch Wolf, different wolf altogether.
Davis has even spoken about selecting a replacement so that Garfield can continue long after he's gone. But here's the thing. It's not just Jim Davis's reality that Garfield has had this strange effect on.
Crown?
It's also...
oh, that's creepy.
ours. That
What?
might sound weird. I mean, how relevant could Garfield actually be in the modern era? Well, if I was to ask you which character out of Superman, Goku, and Garfield was the most syndicated, which would you pick?
Honestly, probably Garfield, just because 3-panel squares are pretty easy to fit anywhere. After that, I would probably say Superman, but DC has a lot of control over that, so they probably wouldn't want to spread it around nearly as much. And Goku, frankly, he's just so much newer. He wouldn't have nearly the amount of decades to get that far. He's probably going to get close to there, and I know for a fact anyone in South America, specifically Mexico, will do anything to do this. Like, he's massively popular there. Granted, it's Goku, so he's awesome. But still, yeah, it's probably Garfield. Like, not even needing any prompting, it was probably him. Just because he's easier to syndicate, and this control setup is different. I wonder what would happen if Superman was syndicated similar to Garfield as opposed to overall comic communities. Oh well, that's completely different all the same.
And if you picked any answer other than Garfield, well, that was a strange choice given the subject of this video, but yeah, it is Garfield. After multiple decades in thousands of worldwide newspapers, Garfield has an estimated audience in the hundreds of millions. The New York Times had to change how its trade bestseller list was categorized after 7 of its 10 slots were occupied by Garfield. And today...
okay, 1, this is absolutely a disturbing place to pause on. 2, 7 slots were filled by Garfield. Okay, that sounds like it's like, oh yeah, they sold a lot. No. The way you get on the bestseller list isn't by sales, which I know is kind of a weird thing to say. And this is just something I know because it's one of those things that you have to have broken to you and have your soul partially destroyed when you're in a writing major that would involve, if you actually succeed, learning. Congratulations, it sucks. The way you get on a bestsellers list is by pre-purchases by bookstores. such as Barnes & Noble, Borders when they were around, or Amazon. As you can see, Amazon counts for shit. So whenever someone makes a purchase, it's not the individual people buying it. It's well before that. It's how many pre-purchase copies have gone to that bookstore, how many have gone to this retailer, how many have gone to small retailers. So you take that bulk of how many books are for sale out there and not how many you have sold or how many have already been purchased and read, which is why you can have someone on the bestsellers list as the book came out because it was pre-sales to people thinking they would sell it well. It's actually one of the good ways to really hype up your sales. If you have the right context and you can convince them to get a bulk buy of your book in advance, suddenly, hey, this is on the bestseller list. This is great. We should buy that. And then they recoup costs, which is how that entire system works. It's not that people were going out and buying Garfield. It's that the sellers thought people would go out and buy Garfield, so they bought Garfield en masse. It's a small distinction because it's still the books being sold, but it's not actually about sales to people. It's more of a corporate gimmick that is then passed around. And it's very soul destroying because it's very much, who do you know? How do you know them? And did they fuck you over or did you fuck them over by maybe not returning the money that was invested? That last one, you get one failure and then you don't make someone money, which is even worse than saying you fucked around with them. I know I probably should, maybe censor myself when I say that. Not making money part. There I go. I said it again. But it's a problem.
His merchandising sales are at an estimated $800 million to $1 billion. And that is a lot to sell in 40 years. Oh, wait, that's every year? That's every fucking year. In products that twist Garfield into every conceivable form you can imagine. For example, Garfield soap, Garfield air fresheners, Garfield cushions.
Super Eyepatch Wolf, I know where you're going with this. Don't do this. You already brought up Rule 34. Don't do this. I know where you're going. Don't do this.
Garfield teapots, a poster with Garfield as a ninja, Garfield cool. Headphone holders, Garfield thermostat, Garfield commemorative coin, Garfield digital alarm clock, Garfield key hanger, Garfield piggy bank, Garfield Walkman, Garfield globe, Garfield ice skates, Garfield boxing gloves, how to insult your friends, Garfield book.
Not gonna lie. I'd get that. That's a steal. I would actually steal this. This is great. And by steal, I mean it's 25 cents. You just find it on the ground. But still. Special Book Fair edition. They had a book of insults for children. This pans out, yeah.
Book. Garfield web browser. Garfield amusement park ride. Garfield personal massager.
Oh, I forgot they actually had that right at Kennywood. I don't want to think about that. Oh no.
A Garfield mug, another Garfield mug, a much dumber Garfield mug, a Garfield mug that is even dumber than the first dumb Garfield mug, existential Garfield, another existential Garfield, slightly too many Irish stereotype Garfield, Garfield waistcoat, unwell Garfield, Garfield gun, Satan Garfield, slime Garfield, child Garfield, illegal Garfield, another fucking Garfield mug, I don't know what this is, table Garfield, yet another table Garfield, Garfield prison tray, sex Garfield, far too large Garfield, nightmare Garfield, this horrifying bedsheet, the
that was Garfield?
Cursed Garfield eats, What is this? Why? This Garfield Jigsaw, which for some reason I can't quite pin down, puts the fear of God in me. In the mid...
It's because it's a bunch of Garfield in the dogs playing poker setup. And you know he's about to cheat. I don't even know what he had in his hand, but it's probably him cheating. He knows he's about to wreck all their days.
80s, a small coastal French village began to suffer an unusual phenomenon when plastic Garfield phones began washing up on shore. No one knew where they came from or why this was happening, but it continued for 3 decades, a mystery that was only solved in 2019 when the mysterious phones were traced back to a lost shipping container. We have so saturated this.
I don't know which is weirder here, that this happened for 3 decades before someone tracked it down based on the current patterns, or that as soon as I saw this I was thinking, oh yeah, kind of like that beach in Florida where the corpse dolls keep popping up. I regret mentioning that. I don't like the image. I don't like remembering it. This entire thing is wrong and I wish I hadn't. Because I can actually think of another time this has happened and I know, no. For anyone who knows what I'm referencing, I apologize. I said that a lot this video, and unfortunately I stand by that apology. I'm actually disturbed that I remember some of these things, and I really wish I hadn't. That's basically the theme of this entire video. Oh fuck, I didn't want to remember that.
Planet with Garfield merchandise that even the Earth herself has begun to reject it.
Speaking of things that are just filled with merchandise floating in the water, the Pacific Garbage Patch is so large and cohesive at this point that it has developed its own coastal climate. Yeah. It has fish living among it as if it was a inland portion of coast. Yeah. At some point, it'll be a floating island of trash that begins to get pulled together because there's going to be enough decay around it to actually count as dirt. And then it'll probably start sinking. And then it'll come up, break up, and just... It's big enough that that's actually happening now.
But if that's the case, why
it's probably made of a lot of Garfield.
Don't we notice Garfield more? Why don't we see him everywhere in every day? And the answer...
Okay, 1, Bathmat 2. What the fuck? What game has Garfield into? It's probably a mod. It's probably mods of Garfield and 2B fighting. But also, what?
Is because they don't want us to. In the early 1980s, a production accident led to a Garfield plush with suction cups attached to its hands and feet. Paws Inc., the holding company for Garfield, didn't expect what was a botched product to sell well, which is why it was such a shock when the toy was so popular, it led to a wave of car break-ins where radios and purses were left behind and only the plush was stolen. Sales climbing to a staggering
the Beanie Baby effect.
$50 million. And what did Jim Davis and Paws Inc. do?
Laugh.
We pulled all plush dolls off the shelves for 5 years.
He said that in 98. You know what? I'm going to say something I didn't expect I would say in this video because of how effed up everything here is. Well done, Jim Davis, to think, you know what, this is going crazy, and not make more because, I can profit off this crazy. If there's one thing everything in the last years have told me, it's that fucked up shit makes money, and the fact that they're taking the chance to undo the fuckery, good on them! I never expect to say that again ever in my life.
They didn't want Garfield to be a fad. They wanted to silently inject him into every part of our daily lives.
Granted, at that point, they probably already
where
had.
He could hide in plain sight, silently growing into one of the most dominant fictional characters on the planet.
By the 90s, though, they might...
And
how early was this?
They succeeded.
Yeah. Okay, I've reached my limit. I know where I'm at, and if I do any more, I'll just be going the rest of the night. And I don't want to do that because I still have adulting to do, unfortunately. On the other hand, this way, I avoid that phase. Neat. And let's all just pretend that's not my usual state of being. Thank you very much. Just going to wait for someone to stop laughing. Thank you, Mom. I'm glad you finally stopped. And more importantly, you guys know what to do. There's a link below to the original video. I'm going to go and try and wrap my head around some of the really fucked up things that Super Eyepatch Wolf. Why do I keep saying Sniper? You know where my mind went. The front page of every YouTube channel whenever you open it without it logging in the first time, apparently. But more importantly, this is darker than I thought, but not in the way I expected. I thought it'd be like Cthulhu-esque fucked up. And we're getting there. I know we're getting there. But everything leading up to it is just Garfield without Garfield is basically my entire extent of this entire video. It's dark. It's fucked up. There's a lot of really crazy stuff involved. And pulling the one product because I didn't want it to be a fad and wanted it to be just a dominant thing that you could always get makes sense. Still surprised I did that because a lot of people would just chase the fast money. Stand by my statement with that. Yeah. So I'm just going to probably pass out for safety's sake and wipe this from my memory. Alcohol. So yeah, I'll see you guys later. Adios.